Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody this evening to the Speedway Economic Development Commission meeting of May 11th, 2017. What I'd like to do is introduce the other commission member. This is our secretary, Mark Chastain. I'm Tom Popchef, the president of the commission. And unfortunately, our vice president, Diane Masaru-Carter, is out ill and will not be able to attend this evening. So the first order of business is to call the commission meeting to order and then also address the April 17th Economic Development Commission meeting minutes that have been previously distributed. And unless there are any suggested edits or comments, we will accept those by consent. So those minutes have been accepted by consent. And now the next item of business is to hold the public hearing for the TIF bond issue and the resolution that will be executed by the commission for the Wilshaw project. What I'd like to do right now is to introduce Dennis Otten, who is our bond counsel, and Dennis will give you a good overview of the process and the purpose of the bond issue. Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Popchef, and members of the commission, and also members of the public who are here this evening. Just for the record, my name is Dennis Otten. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Bose, McKinney & Evans, and we've been representing the town and the commission through this process. Tonight we are having a public hearing before the Economic Development Commission, which is part of a long process that we've been working on with the town on what we're referring to as the Wilshaw project at 1559 Main Street here in the town of Speedway. It's a mixed-use development. When I'm done with my remarks, Chairman, we'll have members of the Wilshaw team come up and do a presentation before the board before the hearing is actually open to the members of the public. So this evening, the purpose of this hearing is to take public comment on the project itself, and then the commission will consider adopting a resolution. The resolution is in connection with the bond issue for this project, and will recommend to the town council consideration of a bond ordinance to authorize the bonds. So this isn't the final step in the process. And as you and members of the public may know, we've had a number of meetings leading up to this that started, frankly, probably towards last fall, early part of fall. Before the Redevelopment Commission, the Economic Development Commission has met on this, the Town Council has met on this as well in a number of meetings. A lot of the prior meetings related to the lease financing approval for this project. We're now through that stage. And now we are on to the bond issue. By way of background, someone may say, well, why the lease financing and then the bond issue? Well, the reason is the lease financing payments are what supports the payments on the bonds. We can't have the bonds without getting through that lease process approval, which we've done. So the resolution before you tonight authorizes up to $6,665,000 of bonds for the garage portion of the project that you'll hear about in a few moments from the Wilshaw team. Now that is a not-to-exceed bond issue amount. As members of the public and others may have heard in prior meetings, do we anticipate that will be the bond amount? No, it will likely be more in the $5.5 million range. The reason we have that higher number in there is it's a not-to-exceed amount and is sort of a max projection, so that we don't have to come back and go through the approval process and the notice process, because we would if we were to exceed that amount. The actual amount that will be issued is going to be based upon a calculation of 1.25 times coverage on the tax increment revenues that are estimated to be generated from this project. In other words, this project is structured to pay for itself based upon the assessed value that's estimated to result in tax increment revenues that would cover debt service. We don't ever intend for there to be any other source of payment on these obligations other than the TIF revenues to be generated from it. In terms of this resolution, it does recommend the issuance of the bonds to the council. It also approves forms of financing documents that we've provided you with before. We have a form of trust indenture, a loan agreement, There are some guarantee agreements. These obligations, when issued, will have several guarantees on them. One will be by the Wilshaw development itself. There's also some third-party guarantees that are sort of backup sources of payment. So we have those documents on file as well, along with the trust indenture for the bonds and a form of the ordinance. And as we were speaking, Commissioner, before the meeting, one other item that this resolution approves is what's called a project report. By statute, the Commission has to deliver a report to the Chairman of the Plan Commission and also, in certain instances, to the Superintendent of the local school corporation, which generally provides information as to the type of project, the nature of the project, and importantly, the number of jobs estimated to be created in the payroll. So we have that report before you this evening, and if the Commission approves the resolution, we'd ask you to go ahead and sign that, and we'll take care of distributing that to the appropriate bodies. They'll then have a 5-day comment period to provide comments back to you on their concerns, if any, with the project. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the Wilshaw team to provide information on the project itself.
Thank you, Mr. Otten.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dennis. My name is Drew Loftus with Loftus Robinson, and we are the developers of the Wilshaw project in partnership with Scannell Properties. So I just want to take a little bit of time to provide an overview of the project. In front of you, you'll see a site plan as well as a rendering of the hotel. So what I'd like to do is just kind of start on the north end, and we'll describe the project as we go south.
I was going to say, can we have display either captured by the camera or turned around so that
Yeah, sure.
the audience can view that?
Yeah.
That might be helpful, Drew.
Thank you. Absolutely. How's that?
Amen.
Good. Everybody's got a view now.
Yeah, can you move it more in front of the lectern? Can you put it more in front of the lectern?
Oh, that's great. That way we'll be able to have it
Yeah,
actually
not in
on.
front of the lectern, but in front of the,
Put it right
this
here,
way.
K2.
There, that's perfect right there. That's perfect right there. If that's okay with you guys, thank you. There we go.
Okay, great.
There you go. Okay.
Great. Thanks, Drew.
Perfect. Good
Appreciate
call. Thank you.
it. You got expert assistance there.
I do. Yeah, he went to school for a long time to do that.
Great.
So let me start by talking about kind of the architectural, the inspiration for the design aesthetic. We very much recognize the unique opportunity that the Wilshaw, project has presented us to do a timeless development project that can do a lot for Main Street, but this is something that's going to be here for a very, very long period of time, and so that's certainly not lost on us. We wanted it to be something that was very high quality, that both us as developers and also the community of Speedway can be proud of for a very long time to come. So one of the kind of core design aesthetic concepts that we used as we kind of went up and down Main Street and looked for inspiration was actually the Allison Plant 1. Part of what we were trying to accomplish was to do a project that looked a little industrial, but was still obviously new construction. And then the other challenge that I think the design team has done a great job of addressing is the mass of a 5-story hotel building next to some of the buildings that have been on Main Street, for a very long time, that are 2 stories or even 3 in some circumstances. So what we did is actually started at 5 stories and stepped the project down to 4 with the apartments. So the mass and the scale of the project blends a little more seamlessly into the rest of Main Street. And then we also broke the buildings up. So the last thing we wanted to create was a big kind of monolithic structure that had a lot of weight and density on just one side of Main Street. So our approach there was just to break the entire project up into 3 distinctly separate buildings, which you can see here on the site plan. So the hotel is in the corner, separate from the other 2 buildings, which are multifamily and retail. So the hotel is a 150-room hotel. It has a restaurant on the first floor, and a lot of the amenities you would expect from a quality hotel: conference space. There's a bar, kind of reception area when you come in. There's a pool. So in terms of hotel product, a very nice hotel we've shared in the past and plan to make a more formal announcement here in the next couple weeks, but it is in fact going to be a Hilton branded hotel. It's not a Hilton, but it will be in the family of Hilton products. So we're very excited about that, and I think that speaks to the quality of the development, but also what's happening downtown Speedway. If we move looking south toward the apartment buildings, those are in total 90 apartments with a mixture of first floor retail and parking. And then you can see behind the apartments we have additional parking and the parking deck. So you'll have ramps, you'll go up to park there. To be specific, the ramp has, the parking deck has 47 spots on top of it, which gives us access to another 65 underneath just the parking deck itself. So if we go ahead and look at the next 2 pages here, this is just a design overview. It gives heights and some general dimensions for both the hotel and the apartments. So we saw it and have been had a couple variances approved. It is a little higher than what is provided with the speed zone overlay, but the intent there was to create really a fixture or a feature that can have the Wilshaw name. Not untypical for a hotel of this kind of stature to have a name up somewhat high on an architectural element. So you can see that the entire building, the entire facade is primarily brick and glass, so very high quality materials, consistent with most of the other new construction that you'll see on Main Street. And then the same materials are used throughout the multifamily project as well. There's some fiber cement panel as well as some aluminum panel, metal panel as well, kind of sprinkled in throughout everything. And then as far as parking, we've all talked a lot about parking as it relates to this project. Just a couple data points on that front. The project has 929 parking spaces in total, spread throughout the deck and the parking lot. It is not shown on any of these site plans or plans, but we have been working diligently with Speedway and with Indianapolis Motor Speedway to secure and improve additional parking, be it the adjacent, what we call the triangle parcel, which is between what will be the Wilshaw Hotel and the gas station.
Correct.
To be additional parking. Also, in conversations, as I said, with the Motor Speedway, to secure additional parking across 16th Street for what I'd call kind of the peak events where Main Street's closed, where you're expecting a large audience. We can work to push some of the parking out there. I'd also like to note that the entire project meets all parking requirements that it's obligated to meet as the project on site without any of the additional parking that I mentioned. Our intent there is just to make sure that we can deliver as many general public spots as we can overall as the project's completed. That's really, the overview I wanted to provide. So happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Mark, do you have any
I don't have any
questions
questions,
of
no.
Drew? No?
Is that from the public or just from them?
No, just from us right now. We'll have the
Yeah.
opportunity for
Okay.
public hearing and questions, and I'm certain that,
My brain.
yeah, and I'm certain that Drew and his associate would be more than willing at the conclusion to respond to any questions that may come up. But this presentation has been given numerous times over the last quite a few months, and I know that there has been some discussion about the parking. And the parking, as Drew had mentioned, has met all of the code requirements as established by Indianapolis Metropolitan Development Commission. I know the Redevelopment Commission has also worked very hard at identifying parking during the construction transition period. And we're also going to be focusing on long-term parking needs of our Main Street businesses, as well as to assure that the residents will have adequate parking along the common passages way, 16th, 15th, 14th. So it's going to be a challenge. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But we're all very excited about the project. As you can see, it's a quality development. It's one that brings value to not just Main Street, but brings value to the entire town. So we're really excited about that, Drew, and
Thank you.
I certainly appreciate you arriving today and giving us that
Absolutely.
brief overview.
Yeah, happy to answer questions. And then my associate who handles putting the boards up corrected me. I think I said 226. It's actually 229 parking spots.
229,
So
okay.
just to be clear
Good.
on
Well,
that.
I'm glad you found those 3 extra. That's great.
We'll take all we can get.
Everyone helps.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Drew. All right, at this portion of the meeting, we are going to open the public hearing. And any of the individuals within the audience that would like to come to the lectern and make their public comments, ask any questions that we'll attempt to respond to, please come forward.
I have 2 questions. And
Could we
it's
have
probably-
your name and your
Oh,
address,
I'm sorry.
please?
I go by Bobby Bose. I'm a Bose, too.
Right.
That might earn me some points, I don't know.
Well,
But
it always
anyway,
does. And your residence?
1915 MacArthur Lane.
Great. Thank you, Bobby.
You're welcome. I just have 2 questions, and they've probably already been answered, and I'm sorry, this is the first time I've come. What is the length of the bonds? How many years?
I believe it's a 25-year bond issue, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
It'll be a 25-year term.
Right, and if you'll recall, when Dennis had talked about the debt service ratio of 1.25, the assessed value, we anticipate being able to bring in tax revenues from this project that exceed the actual bond obligation.
That's
And
good.
that will help for any other incidentals that might occur within that particular TIF district. And then at the conclusion of that bond, once it has retired and been paid off, that's great tax revenue for the town to use for other essential purposes.
And heaven forbid, do we have any protection if they go if the company goes bankrupt?
There are bond guarantees, and I'll ask Dennis to address that.
Okay,
Ms. Bose?
yes.
Ms.
Spelled the
Bose?
same?
Yeah, B-O-S-E.
There is a relationship there, which takes too long to tell you, but anyway.
Yeah, the question you have is a very good one, and I'll tell you, it's one that, in working with the town, that we've been very concerned about in protecting the town's interest through this financing, because it is a sizable financing, it's a sizable project, and we understand that the developer will have construction financing for this. And they'll be incurring debt. And I don't know that we really put the number out there, but I believe the number of the project's roughly $37 million. So to give you some sense of the size and scope of this, to protect against the event of delays and the revenues coming in, we would first look to the developer for payment. If there was a shortfall there, there's a backup guarantee from Robert Scannell and the Scannell Living Trust. And we've done diligence on the Scannell. They are a very large development company in town, actually in the Midwest.
So they're like a guarantor of the loan, so to speak?
A second guarantor, that's
A
right.
second, okay.
That's right. And actually, if you counted them all, it's the Scannell Trust and it's the Scannell behind the Wilshaw development team. So you have those layers of protection on
Okay.
payment.
The only other question I have, and I think it's been answered, our real estate taxes will not go up as a result of this to pay the bond off or anything?
That's right. That's
Okay.
There
I was
will be
thinking
no
about
increase
Market
in
Square Arena.
taxes.
We're still paying for that.
Oh, no, we all realize that, as well as the old Hoosier Dome, et cetera, but that's an entirely separate entity.
I understand.
And before we call the next individual, I do want to apologize. I failed to introduce 2 of our other guests, Vince Noblet, who is the president of the Economic Redevelopment Commission. He's in attendance with us, as well as Tim Gropp, and Tim is our Economic Development Director for the town of Speedway. I apologize, gentlemen. Anybody else like to make some comments?
Hi there.
I'm Marie Hall at 5884 Nash Lane, and I have one question. Can I take one of these down? First off. Where's,
It's right over here.
okay. This isn't correct to scale, right?
Depending on your question, it's pretty
Well-
close.
Let me pull that out of the way, Bree.
I was just looking at it, and I don't think it is. Okay. This is 16th Street, this is 15th Street, that's 14th Street. Is that right? Well, Pax Air doesn't let you build clear down there because their property's down there. Their gate comes out about here.
Ma'am? I'll take it.
Doesn't it?
It doesn't come up, but I need to talk into the mic so we can get you on record. Thank you.
Is that not right?
The gate is down all the way at the south. It may not be to scale, actually, in looking at that, yeah. It's-
I mean, that building is really longer than it can be.
The building, then that's a scale issue in the visual. The building goes all the way to the Praxair Gate easement, which is on the far south end of the property. Practically speaking, so,
Okay, is this barbecue and bourbon, or this is 14th Street?
yeah, I think it may not be to scale, to your point.
Okay.
So the building certainly
So,
doesn't sit on
The
Praxair's
gate is
property.
right here somewhere.
Marie, would you mind speaking into the microphone so we can get you on record?
Be on TV.
Great, thank you.
I was just looking at it, and it wasn't to scale, so it doesn't show us actually.
Well, these are not actual construction documents, Marie. They certainly are for architectural
Well, it looks very nice
purposes.
there, so.
Oh, good, well, I appreciate
It's a
that.
civil drawing. That's dimension and everything.
60, yeah, that is 15.
That's 14th and then 15th.
Well, you got the alley, the alley is between the two, then.
This
Correct.
is 16th, this is 15th, that's an alley.
Oh, we're not down,
That's
we're not
Dawson.
down to 14th
Yeah,
Street?
that's Dawson's.
Oh, that's Dawson's. Okay, that makes sense to me then. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. I was thinking that was 14th Street. Thank you.
I thought we had a big problem for a second.
Yeah, I did too.
We'll try to label the streets better.
Okay, we're gonna get it, it's gonna come, it's gonna be fine, we're gonna get used to your parking and everything, but I just want this statement.
Okay.
We are going to float a bond to build a garage or a parking deck, whatever, for them. It has nothing to do with Speedway. We're going to help them with their project so we can get it. And originally, you had 7 or 8 bids, and they were coming in, and this was the best bid because they were going to do so much, and they were going to spend $50 million. And that was fine. Well, the project has come down, and now we are spending some. So I just want it to be on record that we are building that garage for them, or the parking deck.
Partially, but it is also going to be available to the general public as well at various times throughout the business
At when
days.
the bond's paid for
So-
and things.
Oh, no. Thank you for your comments, Marie, really appreciate that. Do we have any other individuals that would like to make a comment? Well, Bobby and Marie, thank you very much for coming this evening and expressing your comments and concerns to the commission as well as those that will view this broadcast. So the public hearing portion has been closed. And now what we'll do is we need to address the resolution. And this is resolution, there we go. This is the Economic Development Commission's Resolution 2017-02. And it's a resolution approving and authorizing certain actions and proceedings with respect to certain proposed economic development revenue bonds. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to entertain a motion to accept resolution number EDC 2017-02.
I will move to accept EDC 2017-2.
Okay, so moved. I'll second. Any discussion, Mark, concerning the resolution? All in favor of accepting the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Resolution passes 2-0. I believe, unless there is any other business, Mark, do you have anything that you'd like to bring to the commission's attention? Anyone else in the audience have any last questions, comments? Well, hearing none, I would like to call this to adjournment, and I certainly appreciate everybody's attendance this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.